help hoist their country's flag high at the global stage, but have been let down by the very country they seek to make proud. And the reasons are shocking.
So athlete will be told, okay, you are not disabled enough to participate in Paralympics or participate in parasports.
Most disabled athletes around the world are not a happy lot, and the brunt of their discontent emanates from a classification system already approved by the International Paralympic Committee, the same organization meant to protect their interests.
Classification is a Bible of parasport. You get in the wrong classification and your chances are either very low of being successful in that class.
But the shame of classification in international Paralympic sports gets worse in Kenya, as certified classifiers do not even exist, and persons living with albinism remain the most sidelined.
Because we suffer from in-betweeners. We are blind but not blind enough, disabled but not disabled enough, black but not white enough, black enough, white but not white enough. So that in-betweenness is what really makes us to not to quite fit in. We've got to define our own sport.
Over the last few months, I sought to speak to key stakeholders in disability sports,
disabled and non-disabled people in the field of sport,
trying to establish the root cause of the classification nightmare.
We're never going to get a really true level playing field
That is costing athletes their fair chance at winning medals.
My name is Anne Wafula Strike. I am a Paralympian and I'm also a disability and rights inclusion campaigner and also the Commonwealth Secretariat champion for equality in sports.
At the Leisure Zone in Harlow, England, Anne is busy training in efforts to keep fit. It's a weekly routine she does with trainers like Connor, who is helping with today's fitness exercise. In 2004, Anne was a prominent figure at the Paralympic Games, which took place in Athens.
One thing that really stayed with me from 2004 up to now is when we were at the Paralympic Village, people had different disabilities, but I think to all of us, it wasn't about the disability. I think it was about the abilities, because we were all there in our own merit as athletes. And when you talk about athletes, when you get to where you are, the kit of your nation, you're representing your nation, it means that you are you are among the top cream of athletes in that nation.
She was representing Kenya at the 2004 Games and would later represent England in subsequent international games after gaining her UK citizenship. Hers is a story of triumph over adversity, despite the many challenges facing disabled people in the United Kingdom. But at least they have organizations like Disability Rights UK.
My name's Cameron Malik. I'm Chief Exec of Disability Rights UK. Disability Rights UK, we're a national not-for-profit or a charity in the UK. We are the UK's largest disabled people-led organisation.
Unlike Anne, Cameron is not a professional athlete, but knows a thing or two about how life can get hard for any person living with a disability in the United Kingdom.
I remember from a very young age when the film Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back came into the cinemas. I love sci-fi. I went to see that with my parents and got turned away at the cinema because they said I was what was deemed as a fire risk, that if I was carried into the cinema and if there was a fire, I wouldn't be able to get out and I would probably be in the way of other people trying to get out as well. So they turned me away and sent me home.
It's perhaps that incident that has propelled him to the apex of England's largest disabled people-led non-profit organisation. At Disability Rights UK offices, which is housed at the former Olympic Village for the 2012 London Olympic and Paralympic Games, Cameron leads a team tasked with scrutinizing policy affecting disabled people in the United Kingdom in order to enhance equality and inclusion. But those efforts, it seems, have yet to extend to the field of disability sport. In the sector of para sports, perhaps the International Paralympic Committee is alpha and omega. There has been silent discontent among para-athletes who claim that the IPC's classification code is discriminatory in its nature.
My name is Tevin Ojwang. I'm a Kenyan, born and raised. Currently, I'm studying Masters in Adapted Sports at the University of Worcester. I specialize in coaching disability sports, quite a number of them. Sitting volleyball, wheelchair sports, goalball as a referee.
Stephen has no disability but has chosen to dedicate most of his time and effort towards championing for the fair treatment of all disabled athletes, especially those in Kenya. I first met him in June during a goalball tournament held at Brunel University in West London, volunteering his services as a referee in order to gain more insight and experience aside from his academic work.
Because I really want to acquire that practical experience of how disability sports are run and governed in England, because it's something I really want to assimilate and maybe implement in my home country.
Biggest motivations is the fact that Kenya does not have any IPC certified classifiers who can cluster disabled athletes into appropriate groups ahead of international games. Classification is a model in disability sport that groups athletes according to the severity of their impairment in order to enhance fairness and equality while participating in international games. The codes were first officially adopted in 2009 by the IPC and later amended in 2015, with the new rules taking effect on January 1st, 2018. The extent of implementation of the code has been left to individual sports bodies, with the IPC stating that the assessment of whether or not an athlete has an eligible impairment for a sport must be conducted by the International Sport Federation governing that sport. The IPC further states that it is important to note that the presence and permanency of one of the sport's eligible impairments is a prerequisite to participate in para sports, but not the
just ticked a box.
It's a stance that longtime sports manager and author of among the first books on para sports, Dr. Nigel Thomas, believes is skewed to inhibit the complete participation of severely disabled athletes while absolving the IPC of any blame in the process.
I think we've created something of an illusion that we've solved it. That's probably closer, because what the Paralympics does and the Commonwealth Games does is to create the illusion that disabled people can take part in sport whenever they want. Say, I can go swimming today easily, whatever. If you're good enough, you'll get there. That we've solved all the issues in terms of disability and rights and language and employment and all this. So it creates something of a facade that makes the general public waving their British flag feel good about themselves, because look at us, aren't we doing great? Now, don't get me wrong, they're great events and great athletes and it's a great sport, but in terms of the bigger things that are happening in life, it's far from solved.
So athlete will be told, okay, you are not disabled enough to participate in Paralympics or participate in para sports, yet you are all life on a wheelchair. And your medical documents show that you are living with a disability, but you're told you're not qualified enough to participate in disability.
It's a concern shared by both current and former Paralympians who decry the system of classification.
I feel that at the moment I'm in a class that I shouldn't be in, and that is in public knowledge that I shouldn't be in the class where I am. But because of how I look, I have got a very strong upper body. So sometimes people have assumed because I have a very strong upper body, I might as well stand up and walk.
Anne's disability stems from the fact that she got polio as a child. The reason for most misclassifications seem to begin from the fact that classifiers initially clustered athletes based on their medical history alone rather than their functionality within a specific discipline in sports.
They would typically come from physio type backgrounds, medical type backgrounds, sometimes special needs teachers trained, and it was done very much on a rudimentary, can you do this, can you do that, measurements, physical impairment measurements like a general practitioner would do.
Most para-athletes in Kenya still have to undergo the embarrassment of having to travel all the way to the venue of the international games in order to be reclassified.
So when I was classified in the UK, I was given one class. When I went to Kenya, they didn't know what that meant. So I trained under that class. I went to the Paralympics, and because Kenya hadn't sort of like really understood my class, I had to be reclassified again by now what we call international classifiers. So in Athens, I had to be looked at twice. So I was looked at, sort of like put on the bench, can you do this, can you do that, assessed. They looked at my medical records. And then again, they had to look at me on the track when I was pushing.
The errors in classification extend to discrimination against people living with albinism.
Because we suffer from in-betweeners. We are blind but not blind enough, disabled but not disabled enough, black but not white enough, black enough, white but not white enough. So that in-betweenness is what really makes us to not to quite fit in. We've got to define our own spots. It's a poorly developed area. It does not even exist.
But the reason it doesn't exist in Kenya is because no one is giving disabled athletes in the country any listening ear, including those elected to represent their interests.
So I really appreciate you sparing a few moments of your time.
As the only Kenyan legislator living with albinism, Isaac Mwaura says it's a responsibility too large to be solved by just one politician.
I am dealing, for example, with all of types of issues of people with disabilities. But what gets priority in between also trying to be a politician in the mainstream is when you have people constantly remind us and shows us the agency that we need to act. So government don't act on their own. It takes people within that government to be the reformers from within. So I think Timothy, needs to be done very robustly.
At the Olympic Village in Birmingham, the Kenya wheelchair national basketball team trains ahead of their first match against England.
It is my honor to say, welcome to Birmingham.
When the 2022 Commonwealth Para Games begin. Many of those who made their way here have not yet been classified and stand the risk of turning from participants to spectators if they fall into the wrong class because of their disability.
There's nothing as frustrating and really bad as when you are an athlete, you've trained and you know that you are in a certain class and you think that you're going to a competition, you may win a medal, only to get there and your class is suddenly changed. So you go to a class that you cannot even make a final.
Hi, I'm Martin McElhatton. I'm Chief Executive for Wheelpower. Wheelpower is the national charity for wheelchair sports here in the UK. And we're also the owners of Stoke Mandeville Stadium.
If you're looking for a place that is synonymous with the advancement of wheelchair sport in England, then look no further than the Stoke Mandeville Stadium. But perhaps this arena's most profound reputation is that it is known as the birthplace for a sporting event held every 4 years, the Paralympic Games.
430 strong.
And just like Athens is for the Olympians, Stoke Mandeville is for the Paralympians. And it's so lovely that if you're a Paralympian, you have a place where it all started and you feel connected to all of the others who've been in the movement.
It's a movement which began in 1944 and was spearheaded by Jewish neurosurgeon Dr. Ludwig Guttmann, credited for being the father of Paralympic Games because he discovered that spinal cord injury recovered much faster when they were subjected to sports. It is that idea that gave birth to the Paralympic Games, with the first event having been held in 1948 at the Stoke Mandeville Hospital grounds in Aylesbury, southeast England.
In 1952, Dutch veterans came across and they had the first international Stoke Mandeville Games, and that grew and grew, and eventually in 1960 they took the Stoke Mandeville Games to Rome, and 400 athletes from 23 countries took part in what are now known as the first Paralympic Games.
The Games continue to date, and the man credited for its inception remains immortalized at the grounds of the Stoke Mandeville Hospital. Will Power continues to organize grassroots parasporting events to enhance athletes' standards in the United Kingdom through a program known as Get Yourself Active.
But the aim of the program really has always been that disabled people should have access to physical activity, whatever that means to them, and should have equal opportunity to be physically active. There shouldn't be the barriers there.
The program received funding from Sport England to a tune of £1.7 million this year to continue enhancing disabled sports at the local level for another 5 years. Many believe it's a step, however small, towards getting it right. And for former athletes like Anne, she hopes to continue elevating her voice on the matter of classification so that other athletes will not have to go through what she has.
You know, I always say that disability is the only minority group that anybody can join anytime. It's just a matter of time. And if governments and nations are not preparing for it, then they're wrong.